Hey guys, welcome back to Edimon tutorials on database management systems. So in today's lecture, we're going to discuss the last topics of our third chapter, which is embedded SQL, dynamic SQL and JDBC. So throughout this video, we're going to look at embedded SQL and examples of how we embed SQLs into the programming languages, and then we will see what is dynamic SQL, what are the uses of the dynamic SQL, and why do we have to use a dynamic SQL. Finally, I'll conclude this video by giving you an introduction to what JDBC is, why we generally use JDBC in SQL. So let's get started. Embedded SQL. So embedded SQL is a method of inserting inline SQL statements or queries into the code of a programming language, which is known as a host language. Here, the language in which we are embedding the SQL statements into is known as a host language. So we generally use either C or Java as a host language to embed the SQL statements into the programming language code. So embedded SQL is nothing but just including the SQL statements within our C program or a Java program, right? So a host language cannot parse the SQL statements. So the inserted SQL statements are parsed by an embedded SQL preprocessor. As we know, neither C nor Java has a mechanism to parse the SQL statements that are embedded within them. So we do require a special preprocessor that is only intended to execute or preprocess or parse the SQL queries that are embedded in any host language, right? So now that we know what embedded SQL is, let us look at some key points that we have to remember when we are dealing with embedded SQL statements. So the first point is that SQL statements must be clearly marked for pre-processing to be carried out well. The statement says that as we are embedding the SQL statements into a host language, we must mark the start and end of the SQL statements in the host language so that the preprocessor can execute or parse them before invoking the compiler of the host language, right? So we have to use certain constructs to indicate or mark the start and end of the SQL statements. We have such constructs and we will discuss about them in just few minutes, right? The second thing that we should concentrate is that the host language variables can be used in SQL and vice versa. That means the variables that we have in a host language can be passed to the SQL as arguments, but for doing so we must first declare those host language variables in the SQL also. We have a mechanism for defining the host language variables in the SQL, and we'll look at that in a few minutes, right? So our third concern is that, see, when you're using two different languages, it is common that the data types that are recognized by one particular language may not be recognized by other particular language. Like, see here, the data types that are recognized by SQL may not be recognized by C or Java. So we should have a mechanism for attaining the compatibility between the data types. For that, we use the casting process, which converts and maintains a compatibility between the different data types available in different programming languages. So the third point is that for passing the values to the SQL and getting the values back to the hosting language, we do require the casting between the SQL and the host language, right? So now we know the key points, we know what is embedded SQL is. Let's look at how we can declare variables and how we can report the errors that occur in executing the SQL queries. Yeah. So the host language variables are declared in the SQL by prefixing them with a colon. I've already told you, in order to pass the host language variables as arguments to the SQL, they must be declared in the SQL. So we declare those variables by prefixing them with a colon symbol. So whenever we declare a variables in SQL, we prefix them with a colon, right? Okay. Now declaration should be between execute SQL begin declare section and execute SQL end declare section. I have told you that we should mark the start and end of the SQL statements in a host language, and we do that with these two statements. the declaration section is generally started with this and it is end with this statement, right? So let's look at an example. Yeah, now I'm starting the declaration section with this statement, that is execute SQL began declare section char CS name of 20, short CS string, long SID, float CH. I'm ending it with execute SQL end declare section. So this is how you mark the declaration section in an SQL statements. Okay. Now let's look at how we report the errors that occur in a SQL. So the error conditions that occur during the SQL execution can be reported using two constructs. The first one is SQL code and the other one is SQL state. SQL code is the earlier one among these two. It is introduced first. It is according to the SQL 92 standard. It is an error code reporting message that only returns a negative value. So it does not specify what error is occurred, or it does not specify the location of error. It only says that a error is occurred by returning a negative value. Since it is the first thing among these two codes, this is not that well constructed and defined. It just specifies that an error is occurred by returning a negative value. Then we have SQL state, which is the former version of SQL code. So SQL state, according to the SQL 92 standard, it reports, it has some predefined errors, and when encountered it matches those with this predefined set of errors, and then it reports only the predetermined common errors that occur in any SQL. Right, so these are the two things that we use for reporting errors in an embedded SQL. So now let's look at the embedding SQL statements, or how do we embed SQL statements apart from declaration. Now we are done with declaration, we should embed the statements in order to retrieve the data from the database. Okay, let's look at that. So they must also be marked with details depending upon the host language. Yeah, this is a point I've missed, I'm sorry. The marking constructs that we are using now, they differ with the host language. For C, we have one set of constructs that we are supposed to use. In Java, we have some other things. And in this video, we are discussing the construct that we use in C. And I'm not touching Java, right? So in Java, it is prefixed with execute SQL. This is the statement that we use in C to indicate the SQL statement start, right? So execute SQL, let's look at an example where we are inserting some values into SQL and reporting errors if there are any. Yeah, start the statement section by execute SQL, then followed by the command or the statement we want. Insert into sailors values C colon, because these are the variables that we have bought from the host language, where a colon followed by C, sname, SID, rating and C.H. So we are inserting. Once we are done with inserting, if at all there are any errors, then the statement executes, which is execute SQL whenever it's a keyword for checking for errors. So if at all there is any SQL error, it can be not found error. It can, if it is nothing, then you can continue. Or if there is any branching situation, then you can this fires this go to statement. These are the different conditions available. If there is any error, it will report an error. If there is it is undefined, then it says not found. If there is no condition, then it says continue. If at all there is any branching statements, it gets a go to statement. So this is how we embed SQL statements into the host languages. So yeah, now that we are done with embedded SQL, let's look at dynamic SQL. Dynamic SQL. So let us understand what is dynamic SQL by considering an example or an application. So for example, there can be a website or any graphical user interface application where the user needs some information from the database. For retrieving that information, he passes a question to the application. Now we must be able to take that question from the user, formulate a SQL statement in correspondence to that particular question, and then execute that and retrieve the results that are required. So one point is important here is that all these things are done at runtime. That means we don't know what statements to execute. It completely depends upon the user needs. So at this point of time or in such applications, we require the dynamic SQL, which has the capacity of generating SQL queries dynamically at runtime, and also executing the queries and retrieving the results and presenting them to the user at runtime dynamically. So yeah, let's look at the definition that we have. Dynamic SQL, it's a programming technique that enables you to build SQL statements dynamically at runtime. So this is a programming technique that allows you to build the SQL statements dynamically, execute them, and retrieve the result that user want. It is all dependent on the user and it is performed runtime. So accepting command, this involves accepting commands from the user, generating the SQL to retrieve the necessary data. Here we have two commands to do so. We use two commands to create SQL statements during runtime. So see, we have prepare and execute. There are two statements that we use to prepare a dynamic SQL query and execute that prepared query. So let's look at an example, right? So char CSQL string of, it's an array, and we are passing delete from sailors where rating is greater than 5. This is the question that the user wants to perform. So that we are taking into a variable string, and then we are preparing the SQL query and executing the SQL query using the prepare and execute statement, right? Execute SQL prepare ready to go from CSQL string. Now we'll take this string that we have the command that the user entered. We are taking that and we are preparing, and we gave that we named that particular statement as ready to go. In the next statement, execute SQL, execute ready to go. We have prepared, now we have executed. So this mechanism allows us to prepare the SQL statements dynamically and execute the statement and return the results to the user. So this is all about dynamical SQL. Let us look at JDBC, which is abbreviation for Java Database Connectivity. Okay, so see, even the JDBC, whole sole purpose of JDBC is to allow the integration of SQL statements with the programming language, but in a different manner, right? In the embedded SQL, we have embedded the statements into the host language, and here we're going to do that in a different manner, but the whole sole purpose is to integrate the SQL statements with the programming language only, right? So a JDBC or a database connectivity exposes the database capabilities to the programmer using APIs. What are APIs? APIs are application programming interfaces that access an interface or a bridge between the front end, which is the user interface design, and the back end, which is the database. So this is a connection or a bond between, or the bridge between two different platforms. One is a front end and the other one is a back end. This maintains the compatibility between the two different applications. So we call them as the application programming interfaces. So this application, through the help of application programming interfaces, the JDBC or ODBC exposes the database capabilities to the programmer that is working in the front-end application, which is the graphical user interface, right? So JDBC is such a Java API to connect and execute the queries with the database. So yeah, this is a database, this is an API which usually connects to our database and execute the queries with the database, right? We can use JDBC API to access the database and perform the following operations. The first operation is that we can connect to the database. Once we are connected, we can execute the queries and update the statements to the database. And finally, we can retrieve the results and present them to the user who is in the front end, that means the other side of the API, which is graphical user interface. So ODBC API. See, ODBC is a open source object connectivity, database connectivity. This is also another API which is written in C. This is also used for interacting to the database. And JDBC is used for Java and ODBC is used for C language. So both of these things are the APIs that generally connect to a database and retrieve the results to the user that is present in the graphical user interface site. So yeah, this is all about JDBC, and this completes our third chapter. I'll meet you. I hope you're clear with all the concepts. If at all, if you have any doubts, please feel free to comment them in the comment box below. I'll meet you in the next lecture. Till then, stay tuned. Thank you.